Welcome to Fresh Off the Set. I'm Carrie Hawker-Diaz.
And I'm Laura Marie. Thank you so much for taking a listen.
Yes, okay, so today's episode, there's a lot of love. I'm talking to Katy Sine. You've seen her on the show, Fresh Living. She brings on all the most amazing restaurants, talks about her road tour that she does with Taste Utah. She does so much more than that. She is an incredible human being.
I don't think there's anything that she can't do. I remember her coming in one day to talk about food, and then she was saying, oh, I'm getting my Ph.D. in this. I'm hosting this. I'm doing this. And I was like, oh, wow. I don't know how you have time to sleep ever.
She's pretty much an expert on practicing self-love. And it's interesting, self-love. I'm continuing to work on that because, you know, I try. I feel like I'm kind to others, but to myself and giving myself self-love, that can be hard to do.
Oh, it's so hard. I was talking to, I can't remember if it was my mom or my husband the other day, and sometimes it's so easy to treat others well, but yourself, like you were saying, it's so hard. And some of the things you say to yourself, you would never say to another person. Mm-hmm. You would never be friends with someone who would say the things to you that you say to yourself sometimes. So self-love is, I feel like it's not something that's just like you find it and you're done. I feel like it's something that is continually ongoing, that you have to work at to really, you know, appreciate yourself and not be too hard on yourself. It's not always going to be something that's just easy to grasp.
It's true. Yeah, practicing self-love, right? So she talks about the difference between self-love, self-compassion, and when we dive into it, and you walk away from this podcast. I mean, I'm a changed person, honestly, from what I learned from her, and she just has so much knowledge about this subject. So should we give it a listen?
Let's do it.
I am really excited for today's podcast because I get to sit down with the woman herself, the queen, Katy Sine. Katy, thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here. This is such an honor. Thanks for asking me and thinking I'm interesting enough that you want to have a conversation with me.
You definitely are, because we only get 3.5 minutes on the show. You've been on Fresh Living many times, of course, but when we get to sit down on Fresh Off the Set, we get a lot longer with you. So I love that part. Okay, you are, of course, the host of Taste Utah. For those who haven't seen Taste Utah, where have you been? You got to see it. It's really good. But tell them what it is.
I love it. I mean, the most frequent question I get is where should I eat? Because that's really what Taste Utah is all about. It's a marketing program for the Utah Restaurant Association to help educate consumers about where they should be eating out, the newest, the latest, the greatest, but most importantly, the incredible stories behind the food that we're eating. So whether that's farmers or it's artisans, craftsmen, restaurateurs, chefs, just understanding that the people who serve you are some of the most incredible people in the world, and the people who hold space, the restaurant owners and professionals, they're creating that intentionally for you. So really trying to cultivate community through food and connection by celebrating people who are offering incredible dining experiences all over the state.
That's so true. And that's what I love about you. You are love. Like, as the more I've gotten to interviewing you and know you, we of course like get these great recommendations to restaurants and things, but like you really truly care about what's behind it and the people and the human beings that are providing the food for us. And it's also great because I feel like when we're getting home from work, we're like, well, I don't know, what do you want? I don't know, what do you want? And then we can turn to Taste Utah because you have so many ideas for us. And so we don't have to wonder where to go. What inspired you personally to start this TV series?
Well, I love it. I mean, I love restaurant and hospitality workers. I was one. I just think that they are the salt of the earth people. And oftentimes one of the most overlooked connections we have in our lives, we go to a restaurant or we go grab a coffee or a hot beverage, and we don't necessarily consider the person who is offering us this amazing service and who have committed their lives to being professionals and to serving people and connecting. And so I think that being able to share and tell those stories is really important. I worked in the restaurant industry, putting myself through school. I started as a hostess at Ruby River Steakhouse when I was 16 years old.
I was just going to ask you where you worked.
And then I started serving there later in life when I was old enough to serve alcohol, because in the state of Utah, you can't serve really in restaurants unless you're 21, because you can't take an alcohol order, which is really tricky because then you can't make the money. So it's a little bit of a sticky situation. But so once I could, I started bartending and serving. Then I moved up to Log Haven, which and I learned my love of food, of Utah food, from Chef Dave Jones, who was the executive chef up there. He just got nominated for a James Beard
I
Foundation
saw that.
Award.
Congrats to him.
Yeah. And in full disclosure, my mom is the president of the Utah Restaurant Association. So I was raised in restaurants, and I developed my love of restaurants from her because she loves the community and the people and the food and the magic that restaurants create for us.
Not a bad way to be raised.
I mean, I'm not passionate about it at all. I don't know if you can tell.
You're just like your mama. Yeah, so passionate about it. That's so cool. That's what makes it so interesting too, is because you love it and you want other people to love it. In your opinion, what do you think makes Utah's dining scene so unique?
I love it. It's the community, absolutely. I mean, we have great food, and we have for a long time. It's just that people didn't know where to go. And what's in your face is food that you need quickly in a hurry. I think there's something for everyone in Utah, and we don't discriminate. And I do think that has a lot to do with my mom, because she's such an inclusive person. So it's like there's fast casual, there's quick service, there's fine dine, and there's a whole gamut of restaurants in between. And we're not competing with each other, because life isn't a pie. You're not growing a slice. It's a buffet. You can go as many times as you want. So the more options you have and the more ability you have to educate people as to where they can go and why, the stronger community you have. And so we have businesses that are cheering each other on and trying to do right by each other, and then also really wanting to offer that to guests, that real sense of community and connection and belonging, which you really can't duplicate and you can't fake.
Sure. Oh, and there are so many choices. Okay, break it down for us. So like fast casual, like what's the difference between, and how many different kinds of restaurants are there? That's
such a good question. So there's over 5,000 restaurants in the state of Utah. And when you think about our lifestyles, think about the ways that our access to food supports that lifestyle. So if I'm working 10 to 12 hours a day, I don't have a ton of time in my life to consider food, and food is just a necessity. It's not necessarily an experience to me. I need a quick place that I can go in between whatever I am doing and go get food. If I have a little bit more time and I want to sit and dine in, then you've got your, fast casual where you're going in, it's an ingredient-driven menu most of the time, but it's composed in a way that you can walk in there and it can be created for you in 5 to 6 minutes.
Is that where you can order at the front and then sit down and they bring it to you?
Yeah, or they call your name. Yeah, totally. And then you have, casual dining, which is typically like breakfast, lunch, dinner, no white tablecloth. A bit more affordable price point, but still ingredient-driven menu, people who really care about the experience they're creating. I mean, all of these locations originate from people who really cared about the experience that they were offering. So your franchise owners care equally as much about the experience they're offering you as your fine dine. It's just manifest in a different way. Fine dine, you have white linen, sometimes they're even ironed before they're put on the table, and you might have a real candle, and you will want to go and dine and spend hours.
It's the experience and the food, but the experience too.
And the community, the people that you're with. So you go with someone you want to spend a lot of time with. It's not just to nourish yourself, it's to nourish your soul.
Yeah. Ooh, love it. Okay, this is going to be a tough question, and I'm sure you get this a lot.
Okay.
Can you please tell us some of your favorite places to eat here in Utah?
Oh my gosh, I love it. So I will say I don't have favorites, but I have occasions. So when someone's like, Katie, where should I eat? I will say.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, I'll say well, what is the experience you're trying to have? When I served, it was the same thing. It was like, what should I get on the menu? It's like, well, here, tell me what experience you want, and then I get to cater that to you. It's one of the things I love about Taste Utah, because I feel like I get to do that on a large scale. Let me cater your experience for you. So I would say a birthday place for me, breakfast, lunch, is 5 Seeds up in Park City.
I've heard that. I haven't been. I've heard that one's so great.
Yeah, I get the hot cakes up there. It's the only time I eat sweet for breakfast.
I'm taking notes right now. I'm literally taking notes.
I'm in love with Yoko Taco. I just think the quality of ingredient, the caliber of food, and the affordability, so the access for everyone to be able to enjoy is really special.
Yoko Taco.
Yoko Taco.
Okay.
It's the Yoko Ramen folks. They also own Seabird, private clubs or bars or whatever.
Okay.
And then private clubs, that's taking it back, Katie. And Sago down in Kanab, I love Wood Ash Rye for their biscuits, and St. George. I'll literally, if I'm on a road trip, go out of my way to get the biscuits.
Okay.
In Northern, I love, Some Beaches. We just featured them on Taste Utah, the television series, our first episode of season 10, which you can check out on YouTube. And it's on local programming as well, but you can rewatch all the episodes on YouTube on our Taste Utah channel. And they do burgers, but the best, I shouldn't say that. So one of my most enjoyable Bear Lake raspberry shake experiences was at Some Beaches. And then they also own Chad's raspberry jams, which are so incredible. And the story is so incredible. Chad was a brother and a son who passed away, and they kept this farm going in his honor. He helped create the farm and kept it going in his honor. And this is Taste Utah. It's the food stories. It's delicious food. It's just knowing your experience. When we can set expectation, we get to have whatever experience we want in life, in food, in the industry.
Those are really good tips. I love that. Thank you for that. What you spoke about the show a little bit. What goes into making an episode of Taste Utah? Can you walk us through that process?
Oh, this is like behind the scenes, because everyone says like, Katy, you have the best job ever. The reality is I created Taste Utah. So I have my own production company, and I thought what was missing in our community was really wonderful food stories that highlighted the people behind the food that we get. And, we have things like Google reviews, and people get angry when they eat, or they're super fans, but we just really want to see it for ourselves. So how can we create that experience where we can story tell? And so basically we're hitting 2 to 3 locations a day on a given day of Taste Utah.
Okay.
Yep. It's a small crew. I produce and direct and storyboard, and then I have 2 co-producers who are also operating cameras, an editor, composer, and so we are in and out as quickly as possible, not to ruin the magic. But half of the food that I consume is cold and been sitting there for a while, but it's still good and wonderful. And really where I get the most nourishment is from sitting with people and listening to their stories. And I don't want to be the star of a television show. I just want to be the mirror that reflects the amazing people who sometimes are shy to tell their stories. And so if I can sit with them and model what that experience looks like from a consumer perspective so that they can open up and we can really see how special they are, I'll do it.
You're the messenger. You're the amazing messenger that gets to like spread their stories and their love for their food, and it's just, it's so funny. You said you eat when the food is cold. I think a lot of people, we do kitchen segments here and, and go film in restaurants, and like usually that's true, like, because they've made it, they want it to look good right before, but by the time you get to like taking a bite or whatever, it's usually maybe sat there for a minute and cold, and it's still good.
Yeah, and we work on a small budget, and for us, we want to get as many stories and as much out of that budget as possible. And what we do really impacts these restaurants. We have them tell us all the time, like, this was irreplaceable, invaluable, the amount of notoriety, the support that we get from our community because of what you have done is extraordinary, and we want to be able to maximize that and honor those funds as well.
Well, I know restaurants, and we love you, and the people of Utah love you too. Do you when you get recognized, I'm sure you do, and you're in a restaurant and like you're like, there's Katy and she's in her element and everything. Do you like people to like come up and say hi, or do people, what do people mostly ask you when they see you?
They ask me where to eat, which I love. And yes, I do. I love connecting with people. I love people who are passionate about food, and I love to be of service. Like, I want to connect and share, and if I can help someone have an extraordinary experience through telling them where a restaurant is, or if I can help people have an extraordinary day just by saying hi and asking where they like to eat, that's my MO.
This is who she is, you guys. I'm telling you, this is the truth. She's an amazing human being. Okay, you're involved with a lot more than just Taste Utah. Can you tell us about some of the other things that you're involved in?
Sure. So when I was quite young, I knew I wanted to work in media, so I founded an organization called the Motion Picture Association of Utah, which represents all of the working professionals in media all over the state. And we created an incentive fund that helped to bring lots of big movies here. So High School Musical was our very first pilot to see if the fund would work. And then things like Yellowstone, everything that is filmed in Utah has at some point been touched in some way by that fund.
Honestly, I have to thank you because I'm an actor. I also do that. And that was a big thing for me too.
Yeah.
And all of us appreciate that you are bringing things. Seriously, it's the way we can like pay our bills, the way that we can like do what we love too. And so it's so cool to know that you started that also.
Yeah, I mean, I just love Utah. I'm not lying when I say I love Utah. I got my education, some of it at the University of Cambridge in England, University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia, but I always come back to Utah because I love it here. I think this state is amazing, and I think that the adherence to our way of life and quality of life, not just from a government perspective, but also from a community perspective, is extraordinary. I really do think that on some level we are always looking out for each other, looking how we can improve, how we can protect our outdoor spaces, how we can truly, suck the marrow out of our lives together in this state. And that's another thing that I do is wellness and health and wellness. My master's degree is in applied positive psychology from the University of Pennsylvania, and I am really interested in well-being, not just what helps us survive, but what makes us thrive. I think Utah is a state of well-being, and one of my ambitions is to have us claim that for like the month of September and like make it a state of well-being month where we focus on mental health and physical health and community health, and then organizational health, so businesses and things like that. And so I'm a partner in a company called Positive Voices, which has developed some course material and training around that to really make well-being accessible to every single person. I don't think it should be discriminating at all. It should be something that's very accessible.
Agreed. We should all have access to that. You do it all. When do you sleep?
I sleep. So I also think that's an interesting thing about like health and wellness and our physical bodies is that, we often get told that the way that we grow and thrive in life is through exertion, which is absolutely true. Energy is a big part of who we are and how we understand the world, but energy is equal amounts of input and output. So it's really important that when you have the time to take to sit, be still, and to restore, it's super, super important. I mean, in yoga classes, we'll say, get deeper into this posture, but I also think a cue, and I'm also a yoga teacher. Yes, I know what else don't I do? A lot of things, but I like to cue like, listen to yourself, listen to your body. It will tell you what you need.
Yep.
And sometimes you do need to go deeper in the posture, but sometimes you need to pull out. Sometimes you need to give your muscles a break. Sometimes we need to give our bodies and minds a break. But the more efficient we are at that, the more we can truly engage in the world in meaningful ways.
So true. I love that energy in, energy out. I heard this thing the other day where somebody said, instead of thinking in a way of like, oh, why am I so lazy? Why am I like, why am I feeling this way? Think of it as, why does my body need this rest right now?
Yes. Or like, what do I need in this moment? So oftentimes we're so quick to judge ourselves. Mm-hmm. And then we also judge other people. So instead of judging and thinking that we know, why not get curious? Not just about other people, but ourselves. So say like, why am I so tired? Why do I feel so lazy right now? Oh, and then you start to think about all of the things you do in a day. And instead of judging yourself and limiting yourself by calling yourself lazy and identifying as that, you actually start to value and celebrate the things that you're doing in life that, make it so that you're energy depleted.
It's so true. I think we can all be a little more kinder to ourselves. We can be kind to other people. It's like sometimes we're our harshest critics. And so being kind to ourselves is so important. I know you live that. So what and why are you such a big supporter of self-love?
Oh, it's a great question. I mean, I came into an understanding of self-love probably 17, 18 years old because I grew up really hating myself. I didn't feel like I had a lot of value. I gauged my worthiness off of the people around me. So if I meant something to someone else, then I felt like I was valued and a valid person. But if I didn't mean something to that person, then I almost resented them because I was always giving, but not receiving in a way where I ever felt nourished or where I minimally felt nourished. I don't like to speak in absolutes, but I moved to New York when I was 18 years old, 17 years old, 18 years old, and and just fell in love with myself and my capabilities and my potential and my limitations and all of it, and started to develop a real deep understanding that it was okay to be exactly as I am, and that from accepting who I am, then that allows the space for possibility and opportunity. And so instead of pigeonholing myself in the ways that you were talking about just a few minutes ago about self-criticism and judgment and why I'm not good enough, shifting that conversation in my head to ask myself what I need. So self-love is a really big part of my life. It's a part of like my daily intention. I really want to step as much as possible in self-love, but really all self-love is an unconditional love that we open up to from the world around us and then allow to flow through us so that we can offer it to other people. It's like one of the great connectors. It's like breath.
Oh, that's such a good message, especially for right now when we have like social media now in our world with these young kids, and we're seeing so many problems and issues, and we can just be compassionate and teach to self-love. And I think you need to speak about that more publicly too. I would go listen to you.
Oh, thank you. Well, I just think it's something that we don't think about, and it's interesting because I developed a self-love scale to measure it. So I'm actually studying it right now. It was what I did for my master's thesis at the University of Pennsylvania. I thought I would go to positive psychology, which is the science of thriving and well-being, and find the science behind self-love. And what I realized is that academically, from a scientific perspective, we don't really talk about self-love. We talk about self-esteem. We talk about other kinds of things like self-worth or self-acceptance, but nobody really talks about self-love. And when they do, they say it's selfish or it's narcissistic. And so what I did a lot of qualitative measurement, which just means I asked people what they thought self-love was. I knew what I thought self-love was. I did as extensive a literature review as you can of pop culture self-love, but also academic self-love, how love is understood, generally speaking, and how it may be applied to our well-being, so our mental health, our physical health. And what I found out is that there's maybe 4 or 5 student dissertations that mention self-love, but no one's actually really quantified it. So I took all of that qualitative research and created a scale, a 10-item single-factor scale, and we started measuring it. And we measured it in the context of things like narcissism, contingencies of self-worth, negative affect, which is negative emotion, positive emotion, subjective well-being, which is sort of like your satisfaction with your life is akin to what we feel like happiness should be, like how satisfied are we with our life. So I situated in sort of all of this academic research, positive psychology constructs, as well as just regular psychological constructs, and things like self-compassion, healthy selfishness. And we discovered it's very different. It's its own unique construct. I call it whole self-love. That's a working title as we continue to understand the science of it. But to be able to show it actually isn't narcissism. And narcissism actually develops from a form of self-rejection. And rejection is one of the worst things we can experience. We feel it in our body, like we feel physical pain. But the thing about feeling physical pain is that we start to avoid those things that cause us physical pain. So if love or self-love or social connection cause us to feel rejected and we feel that pain, then we start to adapt and try to create a life without it. But a life without love and self-love and other humans and true connection, what kind of life is that? So this is sort of the field of research that I'm studying now.
Is self-love in the same realm as self-care? Because we see a lot of self-care.
I think it's a part of it. I think the core of self-love is self-knowledge. So understanding your needs, because as human beings, one of the things that we do, whether we're conscious of it or not, is try to get our needs met. And so if we suppress our needs, they manifest in a different way. And that's why when you overgive and underreceive, you feel a little bit of resentment, or you feel unseen because you're not even seeing your own needs. And in fact, you're sacrificing your needs for someone else's needs, which never feels good because that's not love, but that's what we're conditioned to believe love is. And truly, self-love is unconditional love. And unconditional love does exist, and it can manifest in things like self-care. It can manifest in things like kind conversations to ourselves. But it can also manifest in being honest with ourselves and saying, like, maybe this needs to shift or that needs to shift. And truly being able to objectively observe ourselves from the seat of love, knowing that love is a limitless energy. It's all around us. And, Rumi has a great quote, and I talk about it often when I talk about self-love because, the master says it better himself, and he was a master seek and a seeker. And he basically says your task is not to seek for love. Your task is to merely seek out all the things and barriers that you have built up in your life against it. Because of things like rejection or feeling conditional love or feeling some kind of attachment disorder, truly at the end of the day, we all just want to be loved. So the more that we can experience it and cultivate it for ourselves, the more we understand it to a level where when we interact with people, it's not about how much love you can give me, but how much love I can offer you and a safe space for you to also be able to feel love as well.
Oh my goodness. I was going to ask you if you had any advice for people. There it is. There it is. We all want to feel seen and heard and loved. That's like our human nature, just to want to feel those things. You're on top of all this, you're also working on your Ph.D., right?
Yes. Ph.D. in psychology and self-love. I'm working with Dr. Julianne Holt-Lundstedt, who is a phenomenal researcher, relationships, social connection. She's well known for the 15 cigarettes, are akin to being lonely, and the also amazing study out of Brigham Young University that was, when you're married and you're in a happy marriage, you actually have a longer life expectancy. But some of the interesting research that came out of that as well is that if you're not in a happy marriage, you don't have that same life expectancy. So just being married isn't enough
to
qualify. Elevate that. Yeah, but I think I would speculate, and this is not academically supported or scientifically, I haven't researched it, which is what I'm doing with my PhD. But, when you feel connected, when you feel like your needs are being met, when you feel like you're contributing to someone else's needs being met, so you're loving wide, you're loving true, and you're loving hard. There's nothing better in this world than that. And so, of course, that's going to be a buffer to prevent things like stress, which creates inflammation, which creates chronic illness. And so we know the more socially connected that we are, the lower morbidities we have. Loneliness affects us internally in a way, physically, that creates a lot of disease and a lot of discomfort. And it's okay to be in discomfort. We just have to be able to recognize it and shift. So like a good example of that is I cycle a lot. I run up hills. I do a lot of crazy things, unsurprisingly. But I just injured my left tricep. And I've been trying to just work through it. My body will adapt to working through that, right? So if I just continue to use my left arm, it'll adapt to the pain, it'll numb itself from the pain. And because that I didn't pay attention to that discomfort, it becomes dis-ease, but then it morphs into disease, and it becomes something that now I'm going to need some type of intervention on a large level to be able to help and support. But if I can create the intervention, which is like, oh, my left arm feels painful, so even though in my mind I don't want to put that weight down, I'm choosing to, because I want to give my arm the space to recover. That doesn't mean that I can't lift with my right arm if I want to, or I don't have to, but knowing my body, knowing that discomfort is a part of being in life, and then shifting our action to alleviate some of that discomfort. But being in the discomfort is a huge part of life, I think, that we overlook. And so
and just shift.
Yeah.
Just learn how to shift.
Yeah, and not make it a big deal, and I think that when we love ourselves, it's so much easier to give ourselves the benefit of the doubt and other people, and have difficult or just uncomfortable conversations, but not in a way where I'm saying, we're going to have a really difficult conversation, and it means if it doesn't go my way, I'm taking my love away. No, it just means like I have hurt feelings, or I have these things that like I need to talk through with you.
And we're going to talk about it.
Yeah, but the love is still there.
Oh, you are so good. You are a wealth of knowledge. You are gold, Katy.
Oh, you're so sweet.
I've learned so much just sitting here with you and talking with you, and I'm sure our listeners have too. I could talk to you forever. Unfortunately, we have to wrap up now, and I wish we didn't, but if we want to follow you, watch the show, what's the best way to do it?
Yeah, absolutely. So Taste Utah is it's the YouTube channel will probably be best. It's local listings in Utah. So just check your local listings for when it airs and to engage in that way. You can always watch the road tour on Fresh Living, which is fun. Our YouTube channel is just Taste Utah. You can reach out to us, direct message us, let us know where you're eating, where you want to eat. If you want more information about self-love, you can reach out to me personally. My Instagram account is selflovesine, S-I-N-E, like my last name. I'm getting ready to host a Costa Rica retreat with 2 facilitators who are also extraordinary. One happens to be the camera man who follows me around. Luckily, makes me look so good on Fresh Living.
Cool.
Yeah,
that's
totally.
very cool.
And I'll be doing some different offerings, cacao ceremonies, and things like that. Just lots of access points to self-love. We need to stop talking about self-love and teaching how to truly love ourselves. And it starts with us. You can't teach what you don't know.
I think you've taught us today.
Oh,
we
thanks,
appreciate
Katy.
you so much, Katy. Thank you. And to wrap up, we like to do what we call the Fresh Five quick questions to get to know you a little bit better. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Okay.
Okay, first one, your go-to coffee order. And if you don't drink coffee, what is your go-to drink?
I mean, my go-to drink is probably sparkling water right now. I'm like so obsessed
She has
with
it in here. It's a raspberry one.
Spindrift, yes. And they don't pay me.
Not sponsored. Are you going on a road trip or are you flying on a plane?
Depends on where I'm going. If it's Southern Utah, road tripping all the way.
That's
if I'm
what you
going
do.
to South Africa, it's got to be a plane. I'm not going by boat.
There you go. Same. Good advice. You are awarded your dream vacation. All paid for, anything you want. Where are you going?
I mean, you know what? The destination isn't so much as where as it is with who. And so I would take all my like best friends from high school, my close like squad from my graduate studies, and my family, and we would just go somewhere probably tropical or somewhere where we could hike.
Okay, there it is. I love how you took that and like, yeah, it depends on who you bring. That's good. Do you sing karaoke when you go out, and what's your karaoke song?
Oh yeah, I mean, I love "Don't Stop Believin'." That's like one of my favorites. Like, and
one.
I will sing "Sweet Caroline," but I sing "Sweet Katy Sine."
Now I'm gonna think that every time. I'm gonna think that every time. Last one. What is making you smile in life right now?
Oh my gosh, I think the opportunity. I think life is such a magical gift, and it's like, you know, Mary Oliver says, what are you going to do with your one wild and precious life? And it's like, what are we going to do with that? Live it to its fullest. Love yourself. You are worthy, not because you make money, not because you look a certain way, but because you are a human being and a part of our human family.
You are a magical gift to us, Katy. Thank you. This has been an awesome podcast.
Is so fun.
We appreciate you. I can't wait to see you on Fresh Living. Thanks so much, Katy. And thank you for listening to another episode of Fresh Off the Set. Please rate, review, and subscribe, and we will see you next week. Congrats, you made it to the end. If you want to continue to freshen up your day, you can watch us on Fresh Living every weekday on CBS Channel 2 in Utah at 1 o'clock. You can also watch us on our YouTube channel, KUTV Fresh Living, and follow us on social media. We will see you next week.